Okay, so I've done a video on the top 5 best characters in the game, on the top 5 best recollections, but what I have not done is a video on the worst characters in the game. So today we're going to be going over the top 3 worst SSRs in the game right now. I didn't want to do 5 because there's not really 5 in the game yet per se with the limited amount of SSRs we have. Now I could have done 5 just in general the worst characters in the game, but then we'd just be looking at a lot of the rare units. So I want to talk about the SSRs that are not really worth your investment and your time to help you with your account. Now with that in mind, invest in the characters you want to invest in because this is a PvE game, not a PvP game. It's not going to be like super meta heavy for the most part, as long as the key being you have at least one really strong character, preferably being Gojo, because Gojo can carry you through most content in the game. So if you have him strong, honestly, you can invest in most characters that you want. But if you wanted to go for the maximum amount of potential for your account, the way this looks right here, this is pretty much how your investment should look at this point on global. You should have Gojo up here, you should have Megami up here, Nobara maybe not so much, but you should have Inamaki here, you should have Yaga here, you should have Kaido here, and then you should have Nanami up here as well. These two characters, Itadori and Nobara, are kind of optional. You don't need them up here, but they are the next two best SSRs after Gojo from the original general pool, so I do think they are kind of worth investment as well. Now in terms of the worst characters to invest in, I actually have a lot of the SSRs, right? I have Nanami, I have Panda, and they're not invested in, but they're not the worst. I just actually haven't invested in them yet because they're relatively new to me. I just pulled them. The characters that, in my opinion, are the worst 3 characters out of the SSRs to get, I have all of them, is Megami, Toto, and Maki. I think all 3 of these characters are not very good in their own right, and I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to show you where they rank on not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different tier lists. Okay, so this tier list is on the wiki for JJK Phantom Parade, and there is a JP tier list and a global tier list. So to show you on the JP tier list, this is where they are ranked right now for JP according to global players, I guess, if that makes sense. If you look at all of these other characters in SS, right, Yuta, all the Gojos, Toji, right, just a lot of good characters up here. And then if we keep scrolling all the way down to the very bottom tier, because these are unranked characters, we have Maki and we have Megami. These are for damage characters. Now if we switch to supports, they're considering Toto a support because he helps his friend, right? So he's also really low. It may say A tier, but there's like not a C tier down here for him to go into. So he is above 2 other characters, but that's a rare character and an SR character. So Toto is very low on the JP side of the tier list. Now, if we switch to the global side, it is the same exact thing. So different characters up here in the higher ranks, but then if you scroll all the way down, you got Toto down here in A rank for support still, and then in damage you can see the ranks all the way at the bottom. Once again, we have Maki and Megami. So yeah, they're not looking great, at least according to the global rankings and what global players think. Now as for JP players, we have the manual reference table. So this is running battles on manual on JP. These are all the characters that are the best towards the top. Now where are our characters? Well, the JP tier list only goes down to like B tier, right? They don't have tiers below B, but our characters are all right here in A tier, right next to each other. Megami, Maki, and Toto all just chilling together, and another Toto down here. It's sad because this Toto looks I love this Toto, but he's not good, right? So he'll be coming out eventually, but these 3 characters all down here in A tier as well, not looking very good. And then if we switch the tier list over to the auto side, so this is like auto battle, strongest characters for auto battles, because auto battle is different on JP. It is better. Hopefully they'll fix global eventually. You scroll down and you find, once again, at the bottom of the tier list, these 3. They did not move at all because they are also bad in auto mode. So they're bad according to global players overall. They're bad according to JP players for manual mode and for auto mode. So keep that in mind. But let's talk about their kits, and I'll let you guys decide for yourselves officially whether you think they're good or bad. And I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you think some of them have their uses or not. I do think they have their uses, I'll say that, but their kits just simply aren't as strong as some of the other people's. So starting with Maki, I do have to point out that both Maki and Megami are going to have a pre-adjustment skill and a post-adjustment skill. Right now on global, we are in the pre-adjustment skill era, so to speak. So all of our skills are going to be the pre-adjustment form. And for Maki, where it says post-adjustment, none of her skills actually got adjusted here, just her auto skill at the end. So we'll talk about the auto skill at the end and how that got adjusted, but all these just say unchanged. So that's why I'm not going to go over them because nothing changed. So her skill 1 is called Sweep, deals 100% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. No additional effects, no debuffs, no buffs, no nothing, right? So it's just a pure damage skill. Upgraded to level 10, it's 150% damage, and it's a single target attack. So yeah. And then skill 2, Crush Bones, pre-adjustment skill, deals 90% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy, decreases the selected enemy's taijutsu damage by 30%. So this one does have a debuff. That's decent, but decreasing the enemy's damage is really not what this game is about, which is part of what holds her back. Because if this said increases team's taijutsu damage or something like that, that would make Maki really good, right? But because it just decreases a single enemy's taijutsu by 30% for only one turn, it's not great, right? And then level 10, it decreases a bit more, but still not anything too crazy. And then skill 3, if I could speak, is called Swirl, deals 70% taijutsu damage to all enemies. It is an AoE, but no other effects besides the AoE, so that's a little bit lackluster as well. And then the ultimate, Dancing Cloud, deals 480% melee taijutsu damage to the selected enemy for 2 hits. No other effects, no debuffs, no buffs, there's nothing, right? And then post adjustment, once again, just to show you guys, nothing changed. And then for the auto skills, at the start of battle, increases own taijutsu damage by 7%. The more enemies in the wave, the greater the damage boost. And then the second auto skill, Early Bird Gets the Worm, at the start of each wave, increases own taijutsu damage by 10%. Now, post-adjustment, it's a very small change. They changed this auto skill from 7% damage to 15% damage. So I guess she does a little bit more damage, but still just a very lackluster character, not a whole lot going on in her kit. And I feel because, you know, everybody else has some really good abilities, especially with future units, that's what holds her back from being good. I don't know if they'll eventually like buff her or like do a Dokkan type thing where they easy A her, which would be sick, but she desperately needs it. Not the greatest character. She can do damage, but outside of doing damage, yeah, good luck. Next up, we have Megami here, and Megami did actually have some things changed from pre-adjustment to post-adjustment. Nothing changed with the Black Flash because he doesn't have a Black Flash, but for his skill 1, it is called Backhand Punch, deals 100% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. If Divine Dog Totality is active, increases own break damage by 20% for one time, deals 140% jujutsu damage to the selected enemy. I actually like break damage. I think this Megami is better than Maki in a lot of ways, but that is fairly decent. However, it's only for one turn, or sorry, one time, so keep that in mind. And then post-adjustment though, it goes up to 40% break damage in the future, so that's actually a lot better at 40%. And then level 10, it doesn't change, right, even on pre-adjustment, so that's why they had to adjust it. So when he eventually gets adjusted, he'll actually be a lot better because a 40% increase in break damage is pretty solid. And then for his skill 2, it is called New, deals 80% jujutsu damage to the selected enemy, stuns the selected enemy for one turn with a 60% chance. If Divine Dog Totality is active, increases own break damage by 20% once again for one time, deals 140% jujutsu damage to the selected enemy. At level 10, it changes your stun chance and your damage, but not much else changes there. Deals more jujutsu damage down there as well. And then post adjustment, it's just once again that 40%, and it increases your base damage for jujutsu damage when you get to that post adjustment. But basically, the adjustments for this Megami are going to give him more break damage, which actually gives him a kind of a use later in the game. But still, there's just other characters that do the same thing that do it better. So if this was here at global launch, he might actually be a little bit higher on the tier list. And then skill 3 is Max Elephant. Pre-adjustment deals 125% jujutsu damage to all enemies, just a pure damage skill, right? Upgrade it goes to 215%. And then post-adjustment starts at 142, goes up to 232. So just literally a damage change for that. Nothing else. And then his ultimate, Divine Dog Totality, activates Divine Dog Totality, increases own break damage by 20%, increases own damage received by 10%. However, it's only for one turn. If that break damage, if that damage received, sorry, was for more turns, I think that would be a little bit better. And then deals 300% Jujutsu damage to the selected enemy. If Divine Dog Totality is already active, changes the skill's effect to deals 400% Jujutsu damage to the selected enemy. So that's just like 100% more damage. I don't know. It's okay. Not the greatest. It's weird because like Megumi does 799% Jujutsu damage here with the skill if he has the dog, but we have characters like Gojo who don't have that prerequisite of needing something to even do this amount of damage. So why would you waste your time going through 2 ultimate phases to be able to do this amount of damage when you could just pick another character who can do that damage right away? It doesn't make a lot of sense, okay? And then post adjustment, once again, some changes there. 40% to the break damage, and it goes up to 20% reduction in damage. However, they did not change the turn count for that, so if they had done that, it would be a little bit better. They did increase the amount of Jujutsu damage up to 1000 when you get it to level 10, so that makes him a little bit better to where he can hit harder. He can finally hit about as hard as like base Gojo, I think. So yeah, a little bit better. And then the auto skills form, Shikigami's Protection. If Divine Dog Totality is active, decreases own damage received by 10%. At the start of battle, increases own damage by 20%. Effective when selected enemy is in break status. Okay, so that's nice. The more breaks you get, the more damage you're going to be able to do with this character. So the whole idea is behind the adjustments is to give him more break damage. That way you're actually able to do more damage with him, which makes sense. And then post adjustment, you can see increase own damage by 50%. That is the big thing that changes him, and actually I think it makes him halfway decent in the future of the game. But by the time this happens, there's just so many better units, like I said, that it just, he kind of gets overshadowed, and it's not going to make that big of a difference in the end. So if they had launched with this, it would be a much different story for Megumi. He would be much higher on the tier list, but unfortunately right now on global, yeah, we're in the pre-adjustment phase, so it is what it is. And last but not least, we have Toto. So Toto has not gotten any adjustments at all. I think he could use some, but that's okay. So his skill 1 is called Hammer Knuckle, deals 100% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy. His skill 2 is Blast from the Past, increases own and ally behind him's taijutsu by 15% for 3 turns 3 times, grants best friend status to the ally behind him. What does best friend status do? When the ally with this status is targeted by an enemy's attack, deals 70% taijutsu damage as a counter damage. So in other words, Toto will counter for you. Inflicts the confusion status on the countered enemy for 3 turns. It's a 70% chance. Counter requires 10 cursed energy to activate. If there was no requirement on the cursed energy, it would actually make Toto a lot better. Counter will not activate if the ally has evasion status or attack immunity. So there's no point in putting Toto in front of someone like Gojo or Nishimiya because they will not need the counter. Pretty straightforward, right? And then for his skill 3, Boogie Woogie, deals 70% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy, inflicts the confusion status on the selected enemy for 3 turns with a 30% chance. Upgrade it to level 10, your chance goes up and your damage goes up a bit on it. But honestly, not the most insane damage. For someone that they classify as an attacker in the game, I'm pretty sure they classify him as an attacker. Yeah, as an attacker in the game, he doesn't have that much damage. And then for the ultimate, My Dear Friend, deals 525% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy for 3 hits, increases own critical hit rate by 20% for 3 turns 1 time. If an ally has the best friend status, increases the ally's critical hit rate as well by 20% for 3 turns 1 time. This could be useful on whoever you want to have a higher crit. That's basically like his best ability right there, is to give that ally crit so when they ult, they can do more damage. That would be the nicest thing about this Toto, but other than that, I don't think he's super crazy. At level 10, 1048.8% taijutsu damage to the selected enemy for 3 hits. And then his auto skill, won't be bored for long when an enemy is defeated, increases own taijutsu damage by 15% for 3 turns. It's okay, but like, there's just, I don't know what to say about Toto. He's good for the particular purpose of protecting one particular character in the game that you want to protect because you don't want them to die. Outside of that, he doesn't have a whole lot of uses, so I could see him being used in certain stages where you just need to keep somebody alive, but other than that, I don't know. He needs a buff. Let me know what you guys think could be a buff for Toto down in the comments. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. And thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel. Peace.